I am going to go ahead and start the meeting, and we'll see if a couple other folks show up here, but guess we'll go ahead and start with reviewing the meeting minutes from November 2nd. Did everyone get a chance to look at those?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Were there any edits to be made?
Only change that I wanted to point out is that Larry Garland is the cartographer for the AMC and not the photographer. So I think we all probably know that. I think it just got misheard. So we should correct that in a minute. So
That's right. That's right. Thanks, Mike. Okay, does someone want to make a motion to go ahead and approve those as amended?
Move.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Ben. I'll just go through the roll call of Conservation Commission members here. Ben?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Mike? Pam?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Those are approved. And then I guess my leaning would be to rearrange the agenda slightly, as we have kind of done in the past, to allow the Save Jackson Falls committee representation here to make a quick presentation on some of the results they've had from the survey that went out. And and Brian is joining. The survey that went out, and it sounds like some recommendations that have come out as a result of that and their subsequent meetings and discussions. So is everyone on the Conservation Commission okay with moving that item up in the agenda to take care of it first?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay, Barb, are you gonna lead the presentation on behalf of the committee?
I can start, and if need be, if anybody on the committee says that I'm doing something bad, they should just zoom right in and tell me. One of the things that we through the whole survey, and I know that a lot of these things are going to sound exactly like a lot of the work that the Conservation Commission has done with regard to the falls in the past. The response I wish would have been even better than it was, but we still did have a really good response. But the amount of people that added the extra additions to their suggestions and everything else was absolutely amazing. It was just amazing. People really thought about it. I would say 99% of the people that responded back are truly, truly interested in being able to go back to Jackson Falls. And so we have gone through, I think in our many discussions that we've gone through the steps that we have to take. And we have to have a really good bottom line presence to start off with. And that initially would be parking. It's unbelievable. Pam sent me, after I had sent out something to the committee, on a response that was given by Pat Kelly and Chief Purley on questions that were asked to them about parking on Carter Notch Road in 2018. They came back with really negative responses, like that it's not up to us, it's up to DOT. We have no control, which essentially, when we think of the original wild and scenic designation, the citizens of Jackson were the ones that were in control of that section of the Wildcat River corridor. So I had a great conversation with Brian from DOT. He actually did all of the measurements to when they decided to put up certain no parking signs a couple of years ago, probably last 2 years ago maybe. And that was that was when he had to come up and measure, and he actually did the measurement. It was really interesting because I think today with my conversation with one of the members of our committee, I'm going to get him to put this all in writing so that we have this as another form of something to go with. But the DOT on a state highway for Carter Notch Road they need 25 feet from the yellow line to the river, and that's considered DOT. If we go back to parallel parking, we are absolutely within that range, which would be, number one, an elimination of an awful lot of parking spaces. He has then said that he'll come with me and measure off a section at the top of the falls at the corner of Valley Cross Road to see if we could indeed get parking for 4 to 6 resident-only vehicles to park there. The next thing that we talked about was that there was a question as to whether or not Valley Cross Road was DOT. It is a town road, and Pat Kelly and I had a great talk about that. And from the letter in 2018 where Pat Kelly had said that he didn't see there was a problem at Jackson Falls, he has now totally changed his mind as far as what kind of a problem we really have there. The next thing I wanted to say was that I got a great, the letter that Pam had sent me. She had talked with Frank DeFrugio, who was one of our past selectmen. And this is something that really bothers me, that there is not some sort of continuity between the selectmen or among the selectmen, the many that we've had. I'm sure there are records every place. But when they went from parallel parking to drive-in parking to create more parking spaces, the people that voted, that assigned that to be okay was our selectmen. One of them being Dee McClave. I mean, she was my old landlady, and I wish I would try and get in touch with her if I could. I'll call Peggy and see if I can. But this was as far back as I would say early 2000s. So the selectmen actually have the power to do that. And so if we can make that recommendation again, like you have done in the past, the Conservation Committee has made that request in the past. And I think that this time we probably will get a much better response. I got a lot more I could say, but that's initially where I'd really love to start, because that's going to really start us on our way.
Thanks, Barb. I have a question, unless there are other folks from the committee that have further presentation. Okay. I just saw you unmuted yourself there.
Yeah. There are other issues, but I mean, I think you just want to start with the parking for now, and yeah, Barbara can come back with other things. I would imagine.
I got a lot.
Yeah.
So one question I have is just as a kind of procedural issue. When the committee was initially created, I had recalled that the idea was that the committee itself would then bring recommendations back to the select board. Not to say that the Conservation Commission couldn't vote to support those recommendations, but is the intention to have the committee itself make the recommendations, or are you asking for the?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, because we can do that, and that's why they created us. But I want for us to be allies in this. And that's why I want us to be able to share everything with you before we even start doing any kind of recommendation.
Yeah, Jeff, if I could weigh in, the recommendation that I made in this group was that it would probably be wise to bring it before the Conservation Commission to at least ask whether the Conservation Commission was supporting these recommendations or not, or a subset of them, or if not.
Right.
And
Thanks, Ken.
yeah, because basically this committee was formed by the selectmen, and I think I thought it was appropriate first bring it before the Conservation Commission to see where their support was or was not.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, I'll just chime in with, that is definitely what, to my mind, it seems like the best course of action. I did just want to make sure that you all did receive, the results from the survey, 171 completed online, 16 completed hard copies for a total of 187 total responses. As Barbara said, there's, parking recommendations, but would it be helpful to you all? I'm not sure if you saw the notes from our last meeting, just because I know Ken shared that with you all, other recommendations to then, because I know in terms of information to be available, you all already have some plans for signage and stuff at the fall. So trying to kind of mesh the efforts, I guess.
I agree. And also, one of the other things that I was thinking of too is that I would also like to be able to send to all of the members of your commission some of the ideas that have been sent to us. Ken has those because I sent them out from two members of the committee that got back to me with incredibly out of the box recommendations, and actually some of them are really, really good. So I would be glad to share those with you if you would want those as well.
Hey, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a quick question. And I may have maybe just misunderstood the committee from the beginning, but I guess I was under the impression that the Falls Committee was going to review this, send out the survey, and then compile essentially like a list of official recommendations. They would filter through town feedback and then present like an official, hey, here's our 10 recommendations and action items and things like that. And I guess what I don't know is, am I just jumping the gun and is that forthcoming and you're just today just updating on here's where we stand? Or is this the kind of start of that, these are the recommendations we want to work on? I guess maybe I'm not quite sure how, what you're asking right now. Like, are you asking that we start on these things, or you're just saying here's where we are and there's an official recommendation report coming in a couple months?
We're not asking you to start on anything. What we're doing is sharing all the information that we have right now. At some point, we want to very shortly probably go before and have some sort of a town, a report to the town on what was the overall end of the results of whatever the survey was. But the one thing that's very important to us is that we stay in contact with you at all times, because the reason that we're there is to support all that you have started. And if you don't have the town supporting you, I just think that, like it's just going to be totally overrun, and everything that you do to try and make it better is going to be not respected. And so that's why I really feel that it's really of essence for us to stay in touch with one another. And we are still compiling so much stuff, we really are. But it's nothing that we're going to be able to, there's not going to be a Warren article or anything else. We just have to start somewhere and to hopefully change things next year, so that people are going to be very much more aware of the fact that we are wild and scenic. We are not a park. We are a jewel in Jackson that you're welcome to come to see, but we want you to respect what we are. And so that's where I would really love to go hand in hand with all of you, because and that's what I think our committee was really made of. And another thing too is that the selectmen did not choose this committee. I reached out to people because the selectmen wanted a committee formed, and they're very much, I think, supportive of what we're trying to do. But we have to go hand in hand, because if we don't, I don't think we're going to go anywhere. So that's my main thing, Mike, is that we keep you totally informed of everything that's going on. Not that we're starting in giant steps. This is going to be baby steps. We're just really trying to get all of our ducks in order before we come forward and really can be sure that we're going to have all the power behind us that we need.
I have a question real quick.
Go ahead, Ben.
How many mailers did you send out, and what was your response rate? And then on the last question, Ken sent the results of the questions, but the last question that has any other questions, we don't have that information. Is that going to come later?
Yes, it will. Yes,
Okay,
it will.
thanks.
The reason that Ken had it was because Ken is on the committee.
Yeah.
And he graciously did not send it to all of you until we had this meeting. And so I believe he did send it to Jeff, but you will all be getting that. And I will also send to all of you the other ideas that I got from members of the committee as well.
Oh, and how many mailers did you send out?
I think Emily said that at the beginning. We sent out 900. We sent to the whole voting list in Jackson,
Okay.
and we had close to 200 responses.
Okay.
And thank God there weren't more, because wait do you read the list of stuff?
People had a lot to say.
Yes, they did.
Okay, Emily, I saw you had raised your hand at one point, I think.
Right. So you all need to have the survey summary that has all of the comments on it. Is that correct? It sounds like just you got it, Jeff.
Well, so
And Ken got it.
And I think I'm just on the email chain for the committee itself. And so I saw it through that.
Yeah.
And then I believe Ken sent the Conservation Commission, or maybe it was just me, but I thought it was everyone on the commission.
No,
the
it's
list of
just the
responses
members
was
of the
just
committee.
Okay.
without the last question,
Okay.
I believe.
I guess I'd just be interested in just clarifying what the process is moving forward. That sounds like to put together, recommendations to you all, which I guess I sort of thought we were going to be saying at this meeting, all of the recommendations, Barbara, but maybe you've got more information coming in. So we still need to put that list together. But at this point, bringing that forward, that would be the same thing, I suppose we would then share with the select people, but again, trying to connect with you all. Now I'm thinking maybe this is a conversation to have more with the rest of the committee. The next steps for us as a group, how we can support you all.
Yeah, that's good.
So I wonder, is there a meeting planned or scheduled to kind of finalize the initial set of recommendations from the committee? It sounds like you've kind of got a list going already, but to come to an agreement on what the ones that are going to be made public or sent to the selectmen are.
Yeah, I thought we were set with that. Barbara, are we?
With the things that I mentioned were all of the things that we had already recommended. The one thing that I did not mention was the paving.
I mean, there's porta potty, picnic tables, education, review of the online social media.
We can do all of that too, but I just, as far as the basics were concerned, I wanted them to know tonight what I've learned so far about
Most recent on the parking.
But that then gives us control of the rest of that. So once we know our parameters, then we can certainly do that. But if you want to just mention those couple of things about the porta potty and everything else, that would be great.
Is that appropriate now, Jeff, or is it taking too much time now?
Sure, I probably want to spend another 5 minutes or so on.
That's
on
what I
this,
was thinking.
because we have some other things to discuss. I guess I wasn't entirely sure whether the recommendations were finalized yet, or whether they were going to be finalized in the future. And so didn't plan on voting on those themselves tonight, or making
Yeah.
a notice of support on behalf of the Conservation Commission tonight.
Mhm.
And it sounds like there is still some information coming in to some extent.
Yeah, yeah, it does sound like there is. So I can just speak to some of the additional input that was provided. There was interest in looking at reviewing sort of the online social media promotion of that's going on at the falls, partnering with the chamber and looking at what the information is that they're sharing. Also some concern that folks have shared regarding Forest Service, TripAdvisor, and other social media platforms. There was discussion about the possible moving of the location of the porta potty. Very interesting to see the input that people had. Some people thinking it should be gone, but really maybe making the porta potty in a better location so that it could be seen, because the crowds will just, as we've seen, for the reason that it was installed there, still necessary to keep there. There was also discussion about the picnic tables. I think at this point, keeping them where they are, even though they do sometimes have a trash collection aspect. And I think that the biggest thing was really trying to stay away from really making it big law enforcement issues, and really being proactive in just the education component of all of this. And this is where looking at information online, signage, and this is where I defer to you all, because I know Mike had spoken about at one meeting already, there were plans in place. So there are a list of different rules that people would love to see put into place. And then the information about additional parking locations, if we are really going to be reducing the falls, the space at the falls, where there are other parking places available. And then the interest in possible falls host program. So that would be the final component of the education piece. So yeah, the parking is, as Barbara said, the most intricate, but those are sort of the components of the management strategies that were put forward. So
That makes sense. I guess my thought would be, if the committee and obviously the Conservation Commission members who are on it can develop a bulleted list of the different recommendations, that then at our next meeting we can basically, as the Conservation Commission, go through and discuss and vote to support or recommend. That seems like the right process to me, and I'd be happy to hear anyone else weigh in on that.
I do apologize, Emily, because I got really lost in being very excited about the fact that we're going to be able to actually have parking.
no, that's fine. I mean, there's new information that came to light. I just always kind of get to that, like, okay, so the next step, thinking what they needed from us, and just being really cognizant of desperately not wanting to be duplicating efforts here. So
Absolutely.
That makes sense. I just want to make sure, Dick, that I actually muted your microphone a little bit earlier. There was some feedback coming from your space on the screen, and so I muted you. But just in case you're trying to chime in here, you may need to unmute yourself.
there you go.
Is that Jack Benny? Anybody old enough to remember that?
Okay. So I guess my thought would be that we could plan on seeing those recommendations and voting on them at the January meeting potentially.
Hello, may I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Dick.
Thank you. I'm a little confused on the parking thing. If the committee feels the selectmen can make the decisions on parking?
They did it before.
No.
They were the
I-
ones that originated the change in parking to begin with, Dick. And that happened
Whatever
back-
happened before is history. I'm really concerned with what happens now. So if DOT feels their area is 25 feet from the center line, I think we're going to have to deal with them. I don't think the selectmen can just make a decision. But I just want to be clear of what your thinking was. I realized that something happened, back when Dee McClave was the chair of the select board. And at that time, the decision was made to help parking at the falls because people wanted to park there. We didn't have the same problems, and I understand that. So I'm not trying to say we shouldn't, limit the parking, but I'm not sure if the selectmen can just make that decision. So anyway, that's part of it. And the other is if you have suggestions that you want to put forward that would require a vote of the town at a town meeting, that you should write that down, get it to the selectmen, see if the selectmen want to support it, or if it has to be a petitioned article. And the time frame on that is coming right up. So anyway, it's just, I want you to think about those things because I think it's all important, and I think it'd be good to put something forward for this town meeting. And, I'll certainly bring the idea of the parking up at a select meeting, and we'll just see where it will go. But it also helps if you write down and submit it to Julie Atwell or Julie Hoyt so that we have a written hard copy of what your ideas are. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Yeah, I think that at this point, we should probably move on to other topics, but yeah, I really appreciate all of you coming to present the results. I'm glad there was such a great response, and sounds like there are some pretty tangible recommendations that are going to be made as a result. So thanks.
Okay, thanks a million for having us. I'll get back to Dick with some of the questions he had. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it very, very much. And I look forward to working with all of you. I think our whole committee is so anxious to work with you and to support you with whatever you decide. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Barb.
night.
Thanks,
And if we
everyone.
don't see you, Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. See you later.
Bye, Barb.
All right. Well, while we're still on Jackson Falls, Mike, do you have any updates with the sign effort? I know that is slightly contingent upon now what's going on with the committee as well, but any updates there?
Yeah, one short update, and that is Larry Garland was kind enough to send me, because what's happening right now is I've contacted Megaprint and Holderness, but in order for them to get started on anything, we have to provide materials, and it sounds like some of the information is going to change. And we were still talking about putting a map in, and Larry was kind enough to do just kind of send over some of the first basics on what we would want that map to look like. And I don't know, do you have share screen enabled? If so, I can actually show you the 3 pictures.
I think I can do that.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
You should be able to now.
Okay. All right, let's see here. Okay, so let's see. Can you see that?
Coming up. Yep, I see it. Yep.
All right. So that first one, what you're looking at. So you just sent me 3. I mean, nothing really done. This is just what kind of format we want it in. So this first one is the this isn't the Google. This is an aerial photograph essentially. So if we wanted this for the background, this is one option, and you can see he can insert various keys. So you can see there's parking up top or parking down below. You can put in sample call-out boxes, things like that, to recognize special features or areas of concern, things like that. So one option would be an aerial photograph. Another option would be a Google Map picture. Did that just come up? All right, so that would be a Google Map picture would be a second
I don't
option.
see that one. Sorry, Mike. I'm still seeing
Oh, did that?
aerial imagery.
No, it's not. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can figure out why I can't. Oh, I know why. Here, hold on. Because I shared just that one thing. All right. Sorry. What about that?
Yes.
There it is.
Okay. So this one would be, so the first one is an aerial photograph, and you can put details over that. This one is a Google Map, Google Earth picture, and you can put details over this. The reason that it looks stretched out is because you're having to zoom so far in that he was telling me that the quality of the detail wouldn't be great. So those are the two, if we wanted to use actual aerial photographs. The one that I kind of like the best is the vector, which would be similar to the kind of maps that he typically makes. And let me show you that one real quick. That is, all right. Did that come up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this one's the vector one. So it's just, I mean, whatever. It's not my decision, but I personally like this one best just because it's really clean, and like a little easier to see. So you can see it there, parking top and bottom. I think that line is just kind of a trail that he was just, I think, kind of guessing as to where that main trail ran. And so those are the three formats. And then we can put all sorts of things on top, all sorts of, details or logos on top of that. It just depends on which one we want. And he essentially said, hey, please show this to the commission and help get the conversation started as to what format you think would be best. So we can either talk about it, we can think about it, or, I don't know how we want to proceed from here. But it was very, very kind of him to start putting these things together. And it seems like he's willing to make us a map, which I think would be great. Although, depending on what happens with parking, depending on what happens with signage, depending on what happens with everything else, we may need to hold the brakes on what goes on the map. I think we can probably pick a format, but I don't know if we want to say what's actually going to go on the map yet.
Yeah. Yeah. My personal feeling is I agree that I like the last one better. I think it would allow us to put more of the information that we're actually kind of trying to convey on there, whereas the imagery is obviously very realistic. But yeah, I don't know. I think I like the last one myself.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well.
Same here.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I was going to say the same here. I mean, I think there's some stuff like you want the map to be actually pretty simple. It may not need the contour lines, for example. But one thing that might be helpful right now is a prototype is what is the geographic area that they're having to cover? Obviously, it's starting up, where the bridge is on Valley Cross. And it's a scale issue, but we may want to go down as far as the Stone Bridge on Route 16. I mean, in town.
Yeah, I would agree with that and include Lower Falls as well.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is the bigger the geographic area, the more problematic it is. I would start with, taking a look at just covering it from the Stone Bridge downtown up to the Valley Cross Bridge.
The other option that he threw out as well is he was just saying as an idea, is we could, ask someone to do a sketch, to draw one. But I kind of feel like I think the vector one's the nicest. So if everyone feels that same way, then that's probably what I'll let them know. Go back to them with.
Yeah, and I could see there end up being, with that as the base map, kind of some little things sketched on there, areas that we've restored over the last several years, things like that. Whether we want to get to that level of detail, it seems like something that we can continue to craft over the next few months as information from the committee comes in and all that.
I think I might, I'm working with the high school right now on some different interpretive panels. And one of the things we're doing is having some of the graphic design students sketch out some things to go on the panels. And I was kind of thinking, maybe it will keep the map as that vector map, but perhaps another section of the sign itself, we could incorporate some sort of sketching or, some artwork, which I think might just look nice. So it's something I'll definitely keep in mind.
I think there were some sketch maps actually that were in the documents put together by the Park Service.
Alice Pepper did a drawing of the Jackson Falls, and it should be in the file. And it's that I think we should try to definitely pull that out and take a look at it and just see if maybe that could be, some sort of an overlay, or at least give us some ideas, or maybe some, just maybe she has some historical trees or trees of interest on it as well.
All right.
I'm asking, are we just trying to educate people about it, or are we using it as a management tool? I think it's probably more the latter.
Can you repeat that one more time, Ken? I couldn't quite hear you.
Yeah, I said that one of the questions we should ask is, what's the purpose of the map? If the purpose of the map is just to educate people there, sort of like the sign around the snow roller downtown, that's a different kind of map than if you're trying to put together a map that's being used as a management tool.
I think my understanding is that it does fall under the latter as more of a management tool. I think originally when we conceived the idea, it was just to help people find out where they can park. At the time when we first started talking about this, was back when we were still talking about sending people to the ski touring lot on the Down Valley Crossroads. So that was part of it. And then we also more to let people know where the main trails where they should be walking. So yeah, I think my opinion is it was more of a management tool.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Okay, well, I guess for the purposes of getting back to Larry, if you need to do that at some point, it sounds like there's general agreement on the simpler vector map as the base anyway. And then we'll just kind of continue to compile information. I see Dick may have a comment. Dick, I apologize, but I muted you again, so you may have to unmute yourself.
I might have done it. I just figured out how to put the picture on.
Well done.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mike, for that update. Any other discussion on Jackson Falls at the moment? All right. Let's move on to Prospect Farm. I believe I sent all of you what I think will be the final version of our own questionnaire that we're sending out for the Prospect Farm Management Plan. It basically was the result of the work that Ken had done with the subcommittee for Prospect Farm that we had already kind of discussed at the last meeting. We had some questions about the questions that were part of the questionnaire. It sounds like Ken made updates to that, incorporated some of those comments, and then sent it over to me, and I put it into a Google form that we can then distribute via Jackson e-News and send out to the select board and the planning board potentially. I think Ken mentioned, or I guess the town actually. I think it was the select board and the town. And then Jackson Ski Touring Foundation is going to send it out as well, as confirmed by Ken. So the plan is to roll that out tomorrow to start receiving responses. And I guess my only request at this point would be, I did see a couple of folks went in and went through the survey, but if anyone else here on the commission can go and do that in the next, between today and tomorrow afternoon, I guess, and just let me know if you see any minor things that need fixing, let me know.
I only have, I don't know if it's too late, on the question about camping and campfires. I just didn't know if campfires had to be attached to camping, because you could just be low impact, like just overnight sleep out, and you know I can't make a fire. But just so it's, I think it's different.
Yeah, that makes sense. I kind of had that thought, and I feel like it'd be pretty easy to separate them if everyone's all right with that. I think that would be a logical change. So just have one line that's camping and one line that's campfires.
I don't know, but yeah. Or yeah, fires, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Is everyone else okay with that? Any objections? I can make that change pretty easily. And Ken, it sounds like you went through it and you were able to get past that issue that you had initially, right?
Yeah, I think you're correct, because I wasn't filling it in.
Okay.
And it had required, and
Yeah.
but I think that could be confusing for folks, because if they run into the same thing and they don't fill in the first one, because they might want to scan the whole thing before they go into it.
Yeah, I just went and switched all of them to optional. Obviously, hopefully everyone answers as many of them as possible, but
Yeah.
I don't think it was necessary for them to be required.
I thought
I was just going to ask you, Jeff, do you want to just send that directly to Ellen?
Sure.
Or I can forward it, either one, I don't care.
Yeah, Ken, could you provide me with her contact information? Otherwise, I can just send it to you and you can forward. Either one is fine with me.
Yeah, I'll just send you her email.
Perfect. Brian, did you have something?
Well, I really like the questions. I feel like we really kind of dug deep on them, and we should get the information we're looking for.
Yeah.
From those questions. I feel like it was a good spectrum. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, thanks to the folks that put the effort in there.
And I guess the other question is, I mean, we know that a lot of folks use Prospect that come through cross country. I mean, I was up there today and the parking lot was almost chock-a-block full. But are there any other groups that may have an email list that would make sense to send it out?
Good question.
I can't think of any.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess if anyone thinks of anything else, anyone else we should send it to, feel free to let me know and I can do that. But for now, I'll just stick with what we planned.
And I think people ought to be aware of the fact that the Jackson Falls survey, that committee decided to just send it to not even just taxpayers of Jackson, but just to legal residents of Jackson. And we've decided to send it to the broad spectrum. And part of that, I think, is tied in with just the purpose of the Baker will, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So it will be a more broad spectrum that we're sending this out to than what the Jackson Falls group did.
Yeah, and ideally, if we are, if folks are answering the questions, we'll be able to separate the data out. How did residents of Jackson respond? How did non-resident users of Prospect Farm respond? And we'll be able to kind of look at some of that stuff, I think.
Right.
Mike, did you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna say two quick things. One is, since it is an entryway to a backcountry hut and a 4,000 footer, I didn't know if there's some sort of the OH doesn't quite feel like the right list, and neither does AMC's 4,000 Footers Club, but I feel like there might be some sort of like that demographic that accesses either the hut or Carter Dome. So I'll think for a little bit about if there's any kind of, I don't know, hiking list or club or that we could survey, because I mean, I would say most people go up 19 Mile, but there's a fair amount of people that approach from that side. You get to Carter from that way. So
Well, actually, it might make sense to send it to the Jackson Chamber.
For them to distribute to their mailing list,
Well,
or in a newsletter or something.
yeah, or at least for them to be able to respond to it. Whether we want them to send it out, I mean, their mailing list could be anybody to Texas or whatever, which might make it a little complicated for us at some point just to understand what we're getting back. But I do think that it might make sense just for us to get a response from them.
All right. I imagine it's fairly easy to find their contact information, or do you have it, Ken, or anyone else on the call here?
No, I don't.
I would think it's online, so I'll try to track that down.
The other thing I was going to say really quickly that it's almost not even worth mentioning, but I just kind of splitting hairs here. But the very last sentence in the background refers to the National Forest System is still developing a policy on e-bikes and does not permit ATV or snowmobiling on its abutting lands. And the first part of that sentence is referring to USFS, like the big national forest. And the second half is referring specifically just to the lands around Prospect Farm. So I don't know if that would confuse anyone, but it kind of made sense to me to maybe signify that because I mean, you can certainly in national forests across the country, there's snowmobiling allowed on adjacent lands.
What it says, I thought, I don't have it open right now, but I said that management unit. Because you can,
okay.
in parts of the White Mountain National Forest. And there's parts of the White Mountain National Forest you cannot.
Is that the part we're talking about?
Yeah, that's different than what I see on that's slightly different than what I see on the actual form, though. On the form, it says the National Forest. It says the National Forest System is still developing a policy on e-bikes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's that last sentence. Yeah. So I just didn't know if that last sentence there would be confusing, since one is the National Forest System and the other one is this specific unit. Maybe it's not. Maybe no one will get confused by that, but I can see people being like, "What?"
Actually, what you are correct, Mike. The last one should say is the National Forest System is developing a policy on e-bikes and does not permit ATV or snowmobiling on the lands abutting Prospect Farm. That's a good catch.
Does that fix it? Did I capture that there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yep. Go ahead, Dick.
How far afield are you going looking for input? Ken has studied the Baker Trust, and as I understand it, the property is for recreation for the residents of Jackson. Now, am I mistaken on that wording?
Actually, the wording is in, Jeff, if you open up the cover letter, has the exact wording, both from the way that the town voted as well as what's in the trust document. It says it's giving it to the inhabitants of the town.
Okay, so that's my question is, how far afield are you going looking for input?
Well, if I'm understanding your question correctly, the places that we're sending it to distribute are Jackson E-News, as well
Yeah.
as the Jackson Ski Touring Foundation, which will obviously distribute it to a range of folks who use Prospect Farm but aren't necessarily residents of Jackson.
Right.
And then we just discussed having it sent to the Jackson Chamber as well. So I think we're trying to, and again, I mentioned this earlier, I think we'll be able to separate out answers from residents and non-residents and look at how those compare if we need to, but we are trying to capture the thoughts and feedback from everyone who uses the area. Does that make sense, Dick?
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm listening. I was just curious, it's hopefully the residents of Jackson will make the decisions on how it's used. Listening to the input from, ski touring, I guess, is the biggest provider of out-of-town, an out-of-town population that would go up there. I don't know where else it would go. I guess maybe some through hikers, but yeah, it's interesting. I hope the residents will take it all into consideration.
Well, Dick, remember that the function of this is to really try to understand how people are using it and which people are using it. And that is different than questioning people of what they actually think in the future. Outside of, I think we do have one question in there that just asks, do you think these are the right uses, and if there are any in here that they don't think should happen up there. We're just trying to solicit what people's opinions are on those things right now, which is different than to say that we're putting something out and asking them to vote up or down on these things should happen.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, I will proceed with sending it out tomorrow then, with those couple of minor changes made. And I'll keep everyone posted as we start to get results. Like I said, feel free to go through the survey between today and tomorrow and let me know if you notice any last minute things, but otherwise I'll send it out.
I guess I just have one quick thing.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the live version of the questionnaire, is it going to be a link that they click to get that map, or will that map auto-populate in the form? I'm just wondering if that will affect, if people will click through out of the survey to that, or if that's handy to just look at while they're reading the question.
So I think it brings you to a new tab, and that is one thing that I would encourage everyone to try, and let me know if you have different results, I guess, if it exits you from the survey or something like that. But I think when I did it, it opened the map in a new tab, but still had the survey open next to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I didn't, in the version I had, I didn't even try that, but I think it's critical to have them not get kicked out.
Well, try it, Ben, and
I'm just attempting it now, and well, it may be my slow internet that it's not loading, so I'm not going to hold that against the. We'll see when I get off the call, and I can look at more than one tab at a time.
Okay. Yeah. Let me know.
For me, it just opened a new tab. I just tried it.
Okay.
Is the map loading?
Yeah, the map loaded.
All right, it's probably just me then.
Would you please send a copy to the town office? Because I still haven't gotten one, so
Yep.
I'll get it through the town office.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to Dundee Forest. I don't know if there are any substantive updates there. I did reach out to William Abbott to see if he had any further. I know he was going to do a little bit more research about the processes that might be involved in a contribution, like he was talking about at our last meeting. And it sounds like he's looking at January to give us an update. That said, I think maybe, yeah, I don't know if any of the folks on the subcommittee had any additional conversations with William since our last meeting.
I did have a conversation with him, and he gave me more or less the parameters of what type of land could be used as conservation easements as a match. I did pass those on to Ben, but William also indicated to me he was actually headed to California to be out there for a number of weeks, to be with his elderly parents, etc. So I will be surprised unless he's coming in by phone. Well, actually, everybody's going to come in by phone on the Zoom meeting. But he's in California and accessible by cell phone. He's going to be working when he's out there.
Yeah, and he did let me know he wasn't going to make it to this meeting, obviously, but he said that he'd plan on basically circling back and providing some additional information or updates by the time our January meeting comes around. Okay, any further discussion there?
I just had a quick question for Mike. I've been in the conservation land at the Jackson Station, and I see some survey tape, and I didn't know if that might be the Dundee Forest.
Where did you see it?
You know, over by, the stone, down by the pond, but down by the stone wall.
Hmm.
And I saw
but-
somebody out there actually with a pack on. I think they must have just been walking the surveyed area. So I don't know if that's where it hooks up with the conservation land, just out of curiosity.
No, I'm not sure. I haven't heard of anyone going out there and doing anything. I was out there 2 weeks ago putting a new interpretive sign in. I guess that's what I'm doing now. Putting a new interpretive sign in by the pond. And I know that
looks
Matt,
good.
does it look good? Oh, thanks. And I know that Matt, who works for Tin Mountain, has been out there doing a bunch of work. But survey, you saw survey tape. I don't know. I'll ask. I haven't heard anything, but it's possible. The Tin Mountain doesn't, like, right at that trail that runs on the stone wall. That's like the border of Tin Mountain. That's where their property ends.
Yes, if you go counterclockwise on that, you'll be able to, and you cross over a pretty good sized brook, and that's where you can see the survey tape.
All right. Yeah. No. I'll ask and go check it out. The last time I was out in that direction, they had the property lines. They nailed license plates to the trees, and that was the boundary markers on that side. So, sounds like they're updating it a little bit.
Right. Well, I'm just hopeful it is the Dundee Forest.
I would guess that it would be, because if they're going for forest legacy money, the boundaries, I think, have to be surveyed to a certain standard.
So they needed something then in order to, because I know they said it's going to cost like over $200,000 for a survey.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ken.
All right, unless anyone has any updates on Wildcat River and Gray's Inn, I'm just gonna skip on by those. Anything for those? All right, hearing none. Conservation easements. I just wanted to check in and see if anyone is having trouble either carrying out their monitoring visit or getting their report submitted, because those are due by early January.
I'm not having any other issue than I keep on forgetting that because I thought about doing it doesn't mean that it gets reported. So that is on my list.
All right. And I think so. I guess I haven't checked in the last week or two, but has anyone submitted their reports already? I think
No.
Mike had at one point.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if I had already done it for this year or not. I know I did it a while ago, but I can't remember.
I want to say
Is
there
there a
was
way to check?
one for March or something like that. So does that sound right?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, it sounds like I did it real early then. I'll go into the system and see when it was last done.
All right.
Because I thought I did it for this year, but I can't totally remember.
All right. Anyone need anything from me or otherwise to get that done? Is it on everyone's radar? All right. I assume that's a no. You don't need anything from me, and yes, it is on the radar. All right. Let's see. I don't have anything for wetlands. I don't have an update on the moment for the annual report, except for that I'm planning to do it, and we'll hope to do it in the next couple of weeks here and send it out so that everyone can review it, and we can just do a quick vote with all the edits already made at our January meeting. I know that the town needs that by January 8th, so our next meeting right now is scheduled for January 4th. My thought would be that we approve it then and submit it shortly after. All right. Any new business?
I have one quick thing.
Go ahead.
I was approached by a resident in town who was at the falls and saw people, a couple of people, taking balsam firs for landscaping, like digging them up and taking them. And I don't know what we can really do about that. I don't really know what the solution, or if that's, I don't think that's a chronic problem, but the resident was great about it and talked to the people and then let me know. And I just wanted to give voice to her and, let her know that it's on our radar, and, we'll think a little bit about it. But it was upsetting to the resident that people would go in there and dig out. I think she said they dug out like 2 balsam firs and a hemlock and saw them carrying them out to their car to plant them somewhere, for landscaping purposes. So just something to keep in mind. I know Pam's there a lot. So Pam, if you see anybody out there with shovels stealing trees.
Well, I might see some holes, but in which case we need to put something on our sign. Don't remove anything.
Yeah, I guess I'd hope that's a one-off offense, and that's not something that's going to become a pattern. But thanks for bringing that up. I actually got an email about that and tried to follow up, and I think the string just discontinued at some point. But thanks for raising that now. And yeah, if anyone notices that becoming more of a regular thing, then we should do something about it.
Well, it's just so funny because there are so many balsams and hemlocks in other places.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty conspicuous place to be getting your trees.
Well, it's easy. It's right next to the road.
Yeah.
I find it hard pressed that there could be a parcel of land in Jackson that doesn't already have an abundance of
I know.
balsam
Exactly.
fir on it. But
I have one thing that I noticed and was brought to my attention is that the Thorn Mountain Trail, at least the upper section, is there's signage up there for closure.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if anybody had been up there or heard that. So they're posting it and they don't want anyone, and I guess coming up from the old ski area side as well. I don't come up from that side, but I didn't know if anyone knew that or had heard anything.
There was a big, the landowner put a big ad in the Sun about a week ago. It was closed.
Yeah, I think they closed it because people were, there was trash. There were people that were writing graffiti on the buildings up top, and there were people having fires on the slopes.
Wow.
So it kind of added up to, you know, this is getting dangerous.
Do you know if it's closed from the Tyrol side, from the Thornhill side, or from, I mean, I assume it'd be from all sides because you can't get to the summit. I mean, if the summit's closed, it's closed.
Well,
but...
the Thornhill side is not owned by Prosians and Judy, so I mean, I don't know how far up to the top yet, because you know there is the Thorn Mountain Trail, but that's owned by somebody else that side. But I'm not sure how, you know, if that goes, if the trail, if those people who own the back of the mountain also own up to the top.
Well, it's got to cross a couple properties along the way. But I'm just wondering, I mean, if it was to be closed top to bottom, what are the rules on that, you know, existing trails being closed? So
I guess my understanding is that a large portion of at least one of the trails is within a conservation easement managed by, I think, Spinneth. But that the top portion of that trail is within the private land, which includes basically the entire summit of Thorn Mountain. So yeah, I don't know what, I mean, presumably you can still use the trail up to that point.
yeah, as far as I know, unless it's changed.
Yeah.
I haven't gone up since, you know, I first saw it. So from the Thornhill side, that's the only way I go up, really.
I go up to the conservation land too.
What track is considered the conservation land?
Well, from the Tin Mountain conservation land.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what that means, but I guess it sounds like they made it pretty clear and did advertise it, and that's the way it is now.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be clean and safe. That's good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing we have to recognize is the whole entry to that private land. And that was, you know, part of what we're going to have to try to decipher in the questionnaire that we sent out there. And that particular landowner has already started to shut down some uses on his property even. And that's, you know, I think as we start to develop the general management plan, what happened there could easily happen even for Prospect Farm. You know, outside people could access it via the Class 6 road, but a lot of people are doing their recreation. Like if you go up the Marsh Brook Trail, that's all on private land.
Yep.
You can appeal to a landowner, you cannot compel them.
And that's, you know, hopefully this questionnaire, I mean, I see two functions in the questionnaire that we'll be sending out. One is to educate people about those facts as well as to get their opinions.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about it. That's what I like about it.
I mean, that'll be our part two when we come up with recommendations for the general management plan. But I think if there's certain uses there, the landowner could shut down his property.
Yeah, hopefully we can get out in front of that, I guess.
I mean, the message is on the wall already, because when he's posted the access on those particular trails, he's already posted as to what can and cannot happen.
Okay, may I? sometime in the near future, I had an opportunity to talk to a selectman from Hart's location, and he's going to start, continue looking at clean water preservation. And I think that would be a wonderful conversation to have at the Conservation Commission level, and hopefully interface with Bartlett and Hart's location, because I think water is going to become really critical to all of us. So it's it's a good conversation, and when we have time, there's plenty to talk about. But I think that's one of the items that should be in our conversation.
Yeah, and I know there had been an effort maybe last year or the year before at the planning board level to move forward the New Hampshire model groundwater protection ordinance. I don't know whether that's kind of fallen off to the side because of short-term rentals now. I think that's kind of the case. But I'm in pretty close contact with Mark Dindorf, who I think you're referring to.
Yes.
And definitely I'd appreciate him coming and talking to us at some point about the efforts that he's making and how we can kind of push that forward if it has been put off to the side by the planning board.
Yeah, it kind of got lost at the planning board level with all the STR blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, that became really important. So anyway, I'd love to reinitiate the whole conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Dick.
Sure.
All right. Any further discussion for new business?
No,
Okay. Any public comment? All right. Can someone make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right. Thanks, Brian. A second.
Second.
Second from Mike. Okay. All those in favor? Ben?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks,
Have a
Jeff.
good night.
Thanks,
Have a
Jeff.
good night.
Good night.
Talk to you soon.
Night all.
Night, Dick.
Good night, Dick.